Hopefully some people will see it and it will brighten their day a little bit.
She's been putting chalk to concrete and taking photos of the results all around the mid-state for more than 2 years. Wherever,
Missed a spot.
whenever.
It works for everybody. I mean, everybody's got stuff they're going through.
Everybody,
Why do I do this?
including Jess.
I was about 20, I think, when I found out.
She found out she was living with a chronic illness. She doesn't want to go into detail, but the diagnosis was like a pebble thrown into a pond.
To be 20 years old and be told that you have something that's going to make your life harder for the rest of your life, it seems like a really long time.
The ripples led to some dark days.
But it wasn't until I really started doing things for other people that I really felt that darkness lift.
She picked up supplies and found a canvas.
And then pretty much once I started it, it was hard to stop.
It's impossible for Jess to know how many people see her work or what it means to them.
1, 2, 3.
Usually.
Nice.
This brother and sister are spending their last day together for a while.
I'm moving to Tampa, Florida. I just got my first job out of college.
This couldn't have come at a better time.
You know, bad days, they end eventually.
Even if that day is happening 1,000 miles from home.
Life is tough, but so are you.
Life is tough, but so are you.
Life is tough, but so are you.
Strive hard, work hard. You can do it.
And then the elements wipe it away.
It's here and then it's gone.
It reminds us that it's all temporary. The good, the bad, it's all temporary.
You can see the water was perfect.
Elizabeth Kane's trip to Ecuador combined the ocean and the jungle. She stayed in a treehouse with uninvited guests.
I was bitten by multiple mosquitoes all over my legs.
Elizabeth visited school kids and a market, but brought home more than souvenirs.
I developed a fever and a rash.
She suspects Zika virus.
My rash looked like that.
Where was it on you?
It started on my face and then it was all over my body.
Alarmed, Elizabeth says she called an ER.
Family is the number one and the most important thing of all.
Wednesday, the first day of school, the new students had a welcoming team.
Gave a couple kids high fives.
Loses out.
In the fall, we were shopping our electric, but lots of Pennsylvanians lost lots of money this winter when their bills doubled, tripled, even quadrupled.
My wife cried for a day just because there's no way we can afford that.
The PUC's initial response was that customers didn't do their homework before signing those variable rate contracts.
Because it is variable, that means it can change at any time.
The PUC also insisted it is legally helpless when it comes to electric bills.
We do not control the competitive market pricing. That is not a area where the Commission has regulatory responsibility or authority.
But thousands of customers complained. So did lawmakers.
These people are nothing but sharks in the state of Pennsylvania.
We've got to do something.
In the House, lawmakers billed nearly $1 million more in per diems in 2015 than they did in 14.
There's going to be some issues that we'll talk about later.
Auditor General Eugene D. Pasquale collecting per diems, which range from $159 to $185 a day, tax-free.
The actual cost.
Hundreds and hundreds of pages of per diems, adding up to millions of dollars. The House billed more than $2 million. The Senate, nearly $250,000 more.
I think it's astonishing. I think it's arrogant.
The top 5 per diem collectors in the House are all Democrats, led by Chris Senato. At more than $31,000, he didn't return calls to discuss his per diems. Number 3, Dominic Costa, is a frequent flyer on this list. The Western PA lawmaker refused to. Influence built over decades. The Long Nyquist website boasts superior relationships. Mike Long was the Senate's top staffer, first under Bob Jubileer, then Joe Scarnati. Nyquist was Scarnati's chief of staff. They left to found this firm in 2007, but have stayed very close to the caucus. Long married Amy, longtime staffer to Pat Vance. Nyquist is married to Noel, longtime staffer to Don White. Both wives work at Long Nyquist. So does Megan Crompton, wife of Drew Crompton, Scarnati's chief counsel. So does Megan Callahan, wife of Christian Callahan, chief of staff to House Majority Leader Mike Turzai. So does Tim Nyquist, former Chief of Staff to Appropriations Chair Jake Corman. Mike's son, Casey Long, makes $104,000 as a Scarnati staffer.
You want to talk about, gray area.
It's beyond frustrating.
Long Nyquist doesn't just lobby legislators on policy, it helps them with politics. LN Consulting ran successful campaigns for a who's who of senators, including Rich Alloway and Pat Vance in the mid-state, and leader Dominic Pileggi. A bill to ban lobbyists from also consulting on campaigns languishes in the Senate.
This insider's game is extremely lucrative.
Long and Nyquist is the biggest cancer in this building.
Dennis Owens, ABC 27 News.
Over the last few months, we drove 330.6 miles to get to Adams, Cumberland, Dauphin, Franklin, Lancaster, Lebanon, Perry, and York County meetings, interviewing any commissioner who would go on camera. 17 of them did. We wanted to know why in all these counties, the big decisions and your chances to weigh in happen weekday mornings when you're likely at work. Commissioners say that's not the question they typically get.
Often I would be asked the question, well, what is a county commissioner?
3 commissioners per county in charge of hundreds of millions of tax dollars. That's your money, your elections. This employee is in a township car and on township time. Your tax dollars pay for both. Receipts show this is the usual amount of food purchased with the township credit card. 18-inch subs, a few rolls, large salads, snack foods, fresh fruit, and several varieties of soda and bottled water.
This order is so consistent that when we called it in, we were asked if we were ordering for the township. The manager and supervisors eat all this in a closed-off room in the township building. If you divide it all out, each person gets this much.
So much that sources say some of the food gets thrown out. So we checked the credit card policy, all 2 sentences. Nothing in here says you can't buy alcohol, no requirements for itemized receipts, and no price limits on meals. So it wasn't out of the ordinary when the supervisors spent tax dollars on buffets at the local Hibachi Grill. Or when a different department dropped $305 and came back with a receipt not showing what was actually purchased. This $384 tab from Mount Hill Tavern is itemized. The township says it was reimbursed for the alcohol, but your tax dollars still paid for lobster and crab cakes. So are you getting your money's worth? So she knew the tax increase was set to expire at the end of 2016. But she wasn't sure about 2017.
Telling her employer to drop back to 1%, like one of her coworkers did, could mean Mary would owe the city of Harrisburg hundreds of dollars next tax season. But she did not want to stay at 2% if that meant overpaying.
They're not going to be calling me on the phone going,